Welcome to Mediumship Moments with psychic medium Kim Durham. Join her as she shares her personal journey with mediumship, connects with your loved ones, and discusses topics dealing with spirituality.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Durham, and I am your host for Mediumship Moments, the podcast that talks about everything from. I, I, okay, we're gonna have to do that again because something. Okay, well, that was spooky.
Good start.
So should we just keep going?
Hey, it's fitting.
Okay, so this started to ring, and why I have no idea. So welcome to Bootober. I am so lucky to have the co-director of PSI. That's the paranormal investigative group that my mom started back in 1974 with us, Aubrey Newcomb. She's third generation paranormal investigator, and the lead investigator, Matt Sweeney, with us today. I'm thrilled. We got to do something so amazing. We got to do a paranormal tour and investigate at the Hurley House in Scottish Rite in Collingswood, New Jersey. It came about as just an amazing opportunity. Really, I was on a garden tour for Collingswood, and they approached me and they were like, "Oh my God, you'll do this." And I was like, "Oh, this is fun." So my team here, along with Noelle, put together the plans to do the tour and to have everyone have a chance to see some equipment and be a part of a paranormal investigation. So what I want to talk about is a little bit about the Hurley Mansion and how it evolved over the years. In 1850-ish, Isaac Collings, yes, Collings Avenue in Collingswood, he was the first gentleman who built it as like a gentleman's farm. And then it went through, next was his son who took it over and did an amazing job with it. This guy was a landowner in Collingswood and bestowed 100 acres for Knights Park in his mom's honor. Then it went through some other types of renovations and different types of owners had it. In the early 1900s, it became like the doctor's kind of hospital. It was a sanatorium for unwed mothers. And then it came into Dr. Albert Davis's hands, where he ran a woman's hospital where they had children being born there. And then that hospital went to Cooper. Then Mr. Hurley, God love him, 1909 to 1930, I'll call it. He owned this amazing house. He called it Dungarvan after his home in Ireland, Waterford. And he changed the portico out front, put on an east wing and west wing, and it had a wraparound porch. It was absolutely stunning. Owned it up until his passing, crossed unexpectedly at his home in Hilton Head in 1928. And then in the year of 30, his bride sold it with the urging of his son to the Masons, who then took off that one portico and built the Scottish Rite, which is a 1,000-seat auditorium, acoustically perfect and amazing, just amazing site. Our tour started in the home and worked its way into the Scottish Rite area because Mr. Hurley had been seen by a lot of people, the people that both work there and the people that have had weddings and toured there. It's well known to have a paranormal existence there. We set about putting some devices throughout the house. And what I'm going to do is break down the house and the Scottish Rite and kind of do it together. So, Aubrey, why don't you talk about what devices we put in the Hurley home to elicit some kind of response from him?
So yeah, we brought out all the shiny toys for this event, and I'm very pleased with how the results turned out. So in the Hurley Mansion itself, we used a digital voice recorder, standard voice recorder that you can get at your local Best Buy or Staples. But then we graduated a little bit higher up where we got our REM pod. And then also we used standard little cat toys or cat balls that light up to detect motion. During that time, the REM pod, I believe the REM pod kind of won out of all the equipment that had the most activity during the entire 6 hours of this event. And what the REM pod does is it emits a certain frequency, and there's a little antenna. We talk about it frequently on the podcast, but for those who are uncertain, it's we actually had some of our guests test it out a little bit. I thought they really enjoyed that.
They got a kick out of being able to see that, and because the electromagnetic field that it creates around it, they got to interrupt. and then elicit, like you said, sounds.
Yeah, and I think what was really interesting with that is that having people actually touch the instrument, they realize how difficult it was for it to actually be set off, that it's not something that you can just like blow on and then it'll set it off. It takes a lot of energy to interfere with that the force field that it does.
Mhm.
So we had the REM pod located in Mr. Hurley's old bedroom, or Paula's office, as we were saying. And next to it, we placed a digital voice recorder. The reason behind that is because the flow of the tours were happening so frequently. But when we moved the next tour, nobody was in his bedroom at all. It was stanchioned off, and we wanted to see if we would get any voices, with
Well,
also the REM pod next to it to help us defer if there was energy in there as well.
I hate to step on your toes, but I've been listening to it because it's 6 hours and it's taken a little bit. We all have other jobs besides ghost hunting. And what I haven't I don't know if I shared with you, you can actually hear footsteps walking towards the REM pod, and then it goes off. I haven't heard any voices yet, and we do have the communication where the first time I asked Mr. Hurley if he's ready for the tour to show off Dungarvan, it sounds like it's Morse code, and so we're gonna have that deciphered.
Yeah.
Y- y- yeah, and I really think not only the bedroom, but just a few feet away, which I thought was a very good idea, is that we had Mr. Hurley's daughter's wedding video playing. Um, and we viewed that as more of a trigger object, sights, sounds.
And so what is a trigger object for those?
A trigger object, it could be anything that it relates to the spirit or spirits in the location. For instance, not only did we have the wedding video playing in the background, we knew that Mr. Hurley enjoyed a little extra recreational cigar,
Mhm.
and he was a whiskey man. So we put out a little tinge of whiskey and a fresh cigar out on his table to see if that would elicit any motion or spirit activity. We definitely, for this tour, I think we did a very good job at finding trigger objects that would relate very closely to him. And I have to say, I'm going to speak for myself, but there were a couple instances where he made himself known on the staircase, made himself very much known in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paula.
Yeah, and Matt, you had a great idea about putting the laser on the steps. Now, the
Yeah.
steps would be from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor, which now they've stanchioned off. There's offices up there. And one of the gentlemen who's in charge of sound there, Joe, for the Scottish Rite, his office is there. And he has often seen Mr. Hurley on that staircase or right there at that landing between the 2nd and 3rd floor. So, if you want to talk about what that.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we decided to put a REM pod right on the top of the steps there as well to see if it would have the same reaction as it did in his bedroom, we also added the lasers, which I think is something putting up that grid to see if we can get some sort of view of a a body or something up on the steps since we knew that he was seen there. But almost immediately when we were in the room setting things up, we were able to communicate right there.
uh, I was blown away when we put the laser up, and you couldn't walk up. So there wasn't anybody walking in front of it. There was nobody walking up the steps. It was isolated. And from the get go, Matt, once you put it up,
Yep.
the REM pod was nonstop up there. And it was, Noelle was kind of stationed in the house along with Aubrey, kind of was the front and the back house with me. And the situations she could hear, um, people talking in the bedroom, and then she'd hear the REM pod go off. So it'll be interesting as we go, and that's a little bit later in the audio tape to get to it. Um, I was just blown away at the amount of activity we were getting in the house, and that made us even more excited, to go into the next phase of it. So when I was headed towards you, Matt, Aubrey was with me. Everybody, like I said, they loved seeing the video of the wedding in 1925. You could see Mr. Hurley. There he is with his cigar and champagne toast. Where the tour came through the sunroom into the Washington room, you saw that on that that video, and you saw the home. So it was really really cool. And then the pool table, the pool table. We started a pool game. None of the balls had been moved. But Paula, the director at the Hurley home or the Scottish Rite, said the cue balls go missing. So we head through the house. We do the tour through there. The REM pod is going off 3 times. It went off both on the steps and on in the office or Mr. Hurley's bedroom. So so that tells me that we had 2 different energies connecting with us at the same time, which again was fantastic. So we head through the hallway. Paula talks a story when she was there 8 years. She's been there 16. But the 8-year mark is when Mr. Hurley showed up in that hallway. She saw him in the white shirt, the pants. And I mean, if you see someone standing there that you weren't expecting when she was turning off the lights, she was a bit surprised, but that's the only time she's seen him in a full apparition. So we head into the Scottish Rite and wow. So, why don't you 2 talk about the Scottish Rite? We get in so this Scottish Rite, I'll just leave it with that. That's the music venue. There was a gentleman on my initial tour who came forward from the other side. He was the lighting guy, and he worked there for over 30 years. His name's Billy, and he made his presence known on my initial tour. But when we went through and we set everything up, let's talk about the setup and then what happened, because I think that's phenomenal as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the setup. I mean, as soon as you walk into the auditorium, I mean, Aubrey, I don't want to speak for you, but you can almost feel it right away. You don't need the equipment to know that there's something going on in there, whether it's the temperature change that we felt all night or the
Mm.
swirling vibe of it.
Give me an idea
Um,
how drastic that temperature change
I
was.
mean, anywhere from 2 to 8 degrees in any moment in real time, you know. So we could talk a little bit further about the equipment we had to see that in real time. But even when we're setting up, I mean, we're just standing there. I'm like, wow, it's really cold over here. So you're like thinking that, okay, is the air on or is the fan on? It almost felt like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, as we're setting things up, it's just like, wow, you're really hopeful that the equipment we're setting up is going to work, and it definitely did all night long.
Yeah. I mean, Aubrey, what did you sense in that building?
Well, I think we were joking throughout the night that Matt drew the short straw, so he was in the auditorium the most out of
Yeah.
everybody in the crew. And, so I will say this, I thought it was very fun, because we all had headsets in just to continue communication within the team, and I can't tell you how many times when I was with the next tour, either downstairs or making our way up to stairs, I just have Matt in my ear saying, "The
Yep.
REM pod's going off like crazy. The cat balls are going off." It was so
Ev
continuous, very continuous, and something I just want to touch upon. Uh, Going back to what you were saying about Paula seeing a full body apparition. For those that don't know or are unfamiliar with paranormal investigation or anything like that, it takes a certain kind of energy to be able to show yourself in a full body apparition form. So once we heard that story, we knew we were in for a treat. So when you made your way into the auditorium, we spared no expense with equipment. We had everything. We had REM pods, a spirit box which transmits AM, FM radio frequencies to be able to discern specific voices that come through.
Mhm.
On stage, we had 2 laser grids, right, Matt? We had 2
Yeah.
laser grids. We had a flux, which we'll get into a little bit more, and we had cat balls. So for Matt to be in my ear just the whole time, like, he's by himself. I know he's by himself. Nobody's there. And he's like, this thing is going off. And then 5 minutes later, I have Noelle in the Hurley mansion saying the REM pod's going off in the bedroom. So for people who are a little novice in paranormal investigation, for activity to be continuous in the time frame that we were there, that's incredible. As somebody personally, for me, who's done investigations in asylums and other locations, this place I can actively say is very much active. So going into the auditorium and feeling these temperature changes, um, people in the crowd and part of the tour were saying, "I'm getting chills," and people were participating, which made it so
Oh,
much better because
Yeah.
we joked.
Fun.
Yeah, I joked with them when they crossed the threshold, they were officially a paranormal investigator, and they really were. I mean, they as they're coming up the steps, the REM pod's going off, or when they're leaving one room to the next. I joked that Mr. Hurley was saying hello and goodbye each time. Just very, very active. So in the auditorium itself, we spared no expense with equipment, and Standing in one corner or the next, you just felt the temperature change. I personally, I could just feel the energy shifting.
You could
And I
feel it
wasn't
whirling
alone.
You can
around you,
feel it.
you know?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was this cold whirling, and then I know, for the naysayers out there who say, "Oh, you had walkie-talkies," um, and I know they can cause interference, okay? Nobody was on the walkie-talkie in the Scottish Rite, even though you were wearing them. They can influence within a certain amount of distance, whether it's 5, 10, 15. The REM pod was all the way up, by the sound bar board, which is used, and yes, that has electrical, energy being emitted. We went around with what's called a meter, that picks up EMS, electromagnetic field, and there was no interference in that area that we put the REM pod. So we felt good putting it there. And
I'm sorry, and a
well,
big thing about paranormal investigation is in fact debunking things. It's not just going in there and saying this is a haunted area. I feel like a lot of investigators take the time to do those sweeps to debunk certain things. That's saying, I'm feeling, because if there's high electric fields going on, yes, that's going to affect you. And your body. So we try to go in there doing initial sweeps to debunk, no, we're having a flatline rating and
yeah,
there's no electric
Yep.
fields interfering with our equipment. Because then what's the point? Then
yeah.
that's,
What
you know,
we're pretty much contaminating the area that we're in. Yeah, so of course you're going to get false positives. So we're in the Scottish Rite, and we have the REM pod. Again, it emits an electric field, and that has to be broke in some way. And each area, it has lights around it to let you know where that impulse is coming, or where the break of the field is coming from. And then when you're on top of the um, antenna, it emits another, so it's verbal, it makes an auditory change to the sound based upon where that, impulse is coming from, or the break of the field. And I was blown away because the blue color that
Yeah.
showed up tells you intense, dramatic temperature drop in that area. I was blown away when that was happening. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting with the stage behind me and the laser grids, the Medusa's net they call it, or the laser grids. And we put that up, Matt. Why put up laser grids? What is the hope
Well,
of that?
yeah, I mean, I guess the hope with that is seeing that interference and seeing if you could have a visual perspective of an apparition or something you see out of the corner of your eye. Because there's multiple times where in the auditorium you feel like someone's either standing behind you or you turn and you see someone walking out of your peripheral vision. But our hope was to see something up on the stage.
And did we see anything on the stage?
I certainly did. Yeah, yeah. There was a few moments there, and it seemed like Aubrey was saying it was almost that hello and goodbye as I'm kind of going around and trying to do those sweeps in between each tour to make sure our equipment's in good shape, constantly changing batteries. So as I'm breaking that down, I see someone walk out of the corner of my eye right across the stage. So in my mind, I'm thinking, come on, it's like that was me, or you're always trying to look for, you know, something faulty with the equipment. So as I back up, verbally say, I'm like, this is that real? And then the REM pod goes off behind me. So I turn around in the REM pod, and then I turn back to the stage, and certainly a whole row right where that back door was completely blacked out. And as I'm communicating out loud, saying, is if that's real, I want to see a change. A green light just kept going on and off in the middle of the black figure.
Wow. And that's the part. We didn't put up CCTV up because it was so fluid. We wouldn't have a chance really to capture. It was in a regular paranormal for a set time with less contamination. I feel cameras we'd put up. We had the Polaroid 600 speed film, and again, there have been some very special things that were captured. That One time while I'm sitting there, I'm facing the film box where they would run films way back when, and it's all the way up top. I'm sitting there and I'm talking. I have 12 people to my left, 12 people to my right, and Aubrey and Matt are someplace down below filming, taking pictures, doing what they do. And all of a sudden, I'm looking, and there's a dim light, and I see a person, an outline, walk across, go into the sound booth up there, and then the sound booth light goes out, and I'm like, okay, there's somebody, there's somebody walking up there, and and that booth, the lights remained out the rest of the evening, and it's you sit there and you question. So, what made it even better is that when we had those experiences, everybody in the audience was hearing it. So, we used the voice box, and do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so as I was touching upon earlier, the Spirit Box basically is just a scanner through an AM and FM radio channels. Same as the digital recorder. It gives a little Sixth Sense vibes in the sense of we're transmitting through radio stations at a very high speed, and what that does is studies have shown that for some reason spirits and electric frequencies they're able to conduct it or mold it in a way that they're able to speak. Again, takes a lot of energy. So a lot of one word responses, very unusual if you get full sentences or more than one or two words here or there. Now everybody, again, the skeptics naturally, it's just the radio station. It's just people talking on the radio station. However, when you're going through static frequencies, there's no voices. It's just complete black. It's just static at that point. So
Good point.
yeah. So during the course of the tours, we did get some hits. It seemed as though a young person named Ben came through at one point saying hello. And Matt, I remember specifically your name being
Yeah, a
said a
few
few times.
times throughout the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, Matt was hanging out in the auditorium for a long time, so he did make some friends,
Yeah. I think I
in
was in there for almost 6 hours.
yeah.
Dark. When I asked questions with the box off, it's like ask the same, be consistent. And 4 out of the 6 tours, we had this young voice, this young man come through, and, we asked how many spirits are with us.
Yeah.
And that I think that was so important during the whole duration of the tour is that the guests that joined us were a part of it. And we actively said, we don't want you sitting in silence. We want you to be a part of this. So if you hear, feel, or see something, say something because it just verifies us as paranormal investigators to say, hey, this happened. We have witnesses. And it's not just, Matt or Aubrey saw it.
Right.
He said, she said, it's a whole group of people. So that was really fun when we were getting responses and people were like, did he say four? I heard a yes. I heard a no. We're getting responses. And for people who have never experienced that before, I could just see their excitement
Yeah.
throughout the tours. So that was fun.
And it was, and when we got a Irish brogue, I about fell out of the chair. When
That was one of the coolest ones of the night, I thought.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. When we got that Irish brogue, and I'm like, "Is that an Irish brogue?" That was
It
heavy.
sure was.
It sure was.
Yeah.
And it was neat. Like if the information if it slowed down a little, I opened it up for people to share. Do you have any of those entities in your home? And some people were so great to share about experiences about a home growing up and having people there. There were a few loved ones who came through, and it wasn't the premise of me working. Fred would not be quiet on the first damn tour. It was kind of like a 4-year-old who kept, I want to talk, I want to talk, I want to, and like I can't. I'm trying to talk about the Scottish Rite and what we're doing, and someone keeps interrupting me. And that was interesting that gentleman was actually someone's great granddaughter in the audience, and confirmed the things I had shared. But that was, and then later in the tour, I was sitting there and I was like, oh. Hmm, this is interesting. They're like, "What do you see?" And I think you asked. I said, "I see a dog, and it's running up and
Yep.
down the steps, and it's a little dark shepherd." And here,
Yep.
the woman right by there had lost her pup Max a few months ago, and I said, "Well, go ahead."
And we got confirmed on the flux when that was happening. So the flux that we had is a little tiny device, almost kind of similar to a REM pod. However, it's a little triangle. It it has lights where green, red, and blue, like there's different patterns for how far away you want to transmit. So 1, 2, 3, 4 feet uh, of a span. So if something crosses in that, it'll go off. But we also use it as a yes and no to help spirits communicate with us that way. So I thought it was very interesting while you were doing your little mini reading when you weren't supposed to, but it's fine. No, it was. I give you total credit because I know it's not. You can't just shut it off.
Well,
And
I
here
didn't
you are.
even meditate. Like, I didn't prep to do any of that. Who had time? We were
Yeah.
busy
Yeah, and
yeah.
I found it very fun that here you are doing your tour. This is the first time we've done anything like this. So,
It was a big undertaking, and I have
yeah,
to say, you guys rocked it. I mean, where we placed the equipment, the knowing what equipment we needed, that just the accent of, the spookiness with the uplighting, the
little
candles, it was so well received. Now, on some of the tours inside, you were using, thermal camera. Why don't you speak about that, Matt?
Yeah, so the thermal camera, we were doing sweeps of the room, and as some of the other things we're talking about, the mel meter or
So the
we had,
millimeter picks up EMFs and temperature changes, which is kinda like what I was holding on to.
yeah. The point with the piece of equipment I had was to see the visual of that. So it's showing heat signatures on bodies. Even when individuals stand up, you can still see where they were sitting. So it still holds on to that temperature change
That's
within the
pretty cool.
room.
That's
Yeah. So I mean, so the idea with that is to do sweeps of the room, and as I was utilizing that, just minutes before, moments before you say, someone take a picture of me because I feel this temperature change. I was actually able to see it before you did.
wow. When I was sitting there, this one time, the best thing I can describe is, and we had low lighting on. You kind of need that, and I say that because for me, I can see them more easily. In because, and so can everybody else. I mean, when you have that, like you spoke of, Aubrey, that power, that energy forming, you'll see it in an orb. A lot of people see it in baby monitors. They're like, "What is this thing that keeps flying?" And it's not dust, and it's an orb. It's an energy. I believe in the thought or the theory of Albert Einstein, energy can't be destroyed, it's only changed in its form. And so I believe after we leave this physical vessel, the soul or the energy continues. And that's what I communicate with, and that's what we see when we do a paranormal investigation. Now, there's two types, right? Or there's three types. There's class A, B, and C, but there's residual and intellectual, right? Intelligent. The residual would be Fort Mifflin, when we heard the boots up above us in the barracks. There was nobody in the building besides Aubrey and I, and there was nobody upstairs, and that was confirmed by the director at Fort Mifflin. So residual energy, a loop, if you will, right, of energy playing over and over again. And then with the flux, we had intelligent, where we were asking, are you a male? And it came back green. And then we said, are you a Mason? And it goes, no. It was a quick, it was a
Hard no.
it was a hard no.
and another unintentional trigger object that we had no control over was, in fact, there was an monthly Mason party going on.
Yeah.
Um, under at the in the wedding in the other venue connected to the Scottish Rite, the Masons were having their monthly get together and shindig while we were doing this tour. So there were a lot of trigger objects happening intentionally and unintentionally. I feel like that also helped with the energy there. So I thought it was very funny when you had asked if you were a Mason, and it was a hard, quick no, and then it stayed on red
It did.
for longer than like 15 seconds. They were like, no, I'm not a Mason. They're
Yeah, and it was,
downstairs.
and then something I forgot. I'd taken the initial tour with Jen, Andrea, and Paula, who runs it, just to get an idea of the space. And when I walked into the into the sunroom, I heard babies crying. I didn't know that it was used as a place where they birth babies. So there's that maybe residual energy I was picking up on. But Mr. Hurley came through and communicated with me about the cabinet in his office that was in the closet, that he'd like it back in its rightful place. So, Paula, you might want to consider that. But he also talked to me about he didn't like the party at the end of October because the people put their hoods on. Now, I go into a place cold. I don't want to know anything, the history or anything else. Here, there's Mr. Hurley was a devout Irish Catholic boy, he was. But Teddy Roosevelt stayed at that home twice, and he was a third degree Mason. And there's some thoughts that Mr. Hurley wasn't happy that the Masons bought and are running it. And I kind of have to agree with Aubrey and Matt, like there was this perfect energy happening. Maybe that's why we got so much in the Scottish Rite and in the house. I mean,
Because people don't tour the house. The house is not open for tours. It is specifically for, like, wedding, like, they use the sunroom for a bridal suite. It's not, it's mainly for employees there. It's not typically open
right.
for guests. So, that's a change in the environment as well that possibly these spirits aren't used to. So you've got a party in the back, a tour in the front, and you've got all this equipment. And I was very, very happy with the evidence that we captured in real time. Um,
Touch upon the family, which
yeah.
could have been seen as a Aubrey, you want to talk about that or Matt?
Oh, yeah. So what was really great about this event was it reached out to the community. We're giving back to the community. And in that process, we come to find out that descendants of Mr. Hurley himself decided to come and join the tour, which I thought was amazing. Another trigger object.
The great granddaughter,
Yeah.
and then I believe 5 or 6 great grandchildren
Yes.
who had never been in the house. Now, the great granddaughter, which is the grandmother of the children that were there, she remembers going to the house with her with her grandmother. But those other children had, and it was so neat to see them sitting in front of the movie playing, and seeing what the house looked like at that time period. I was thrilled that they were part of the tour.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, to have that history continue. Um, so final thoughts, if you will, about the Haunted Hurley tour and your findings or your experience.
Well, the cleanup was fun, right, Matt?
Yeah, that was cleanup, I think, may have been one of my personal favorites, I guess, selfishly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of breaking down everything, that it was interesting, I guess, to point out too, after every tour had left, the energy of the room shifted immediately, that high and by mentality of just like, oh, like things happen when people come in and when they leave. When everyone left the room was just on fire the whole time. It was a really, really cool vibe, different change. And that's the times where we got some of those temperature change videos. The equipment was going back and forth with me the whole time. So as we were breaking down at the end and putting those lasers away, I think at that point I started off a little bit by myself, and I was kind of happy when you came back, Aubrey. So I was like, all right, cool. Like someone else is looking at this happening. I'm not just going crazy. Um, as we're breaking down some of the tripods, when I picked up the laser, it just broke in half and fell on the ground. Um, why? We didn't know immediately. I'm just thinking like, what just happened? We were missing a nut and a bolt that holds the tripod together, which actually that held the laser pointing up onto the back wall, and it was missing.
And you set everything up. When we
Yep.
went through the walkthrough, I looked because that
And I was not a part of the setup, so I was there
Yeah.
strictly for cleanup. So I did not touch any of the equipment until we started breaking it down.
and I don't.
So I
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm sorry to step on your toes. Was it the 7:30 tour that we heard something
um,
being tossed?
Yeah, I actually have that sound on video
Yeah,
also. So
and I'm like, "Is someone throwing pebble?" Like, we heard
yeah.
something being taken off and either slid across the stage. You could clearly hear it. Um, and
And
then
that's when we walked around. We literally walked the perimeter of the stage thinking like if this thing's in the corner somewhere, I'm gonna like fall over. But we couldn't find it. And then we went downstairs and told you it was missing. We're like, man, like how do we lose a piece of equipment? Um, so I guess when we came back up, we're like, fine, let's just pack up. We had some of our bins there and we completely empty. And I turn around to Aubrey and I look back and I said, I found the nut and bolt, and it was inside the empty case that we literally just emptied out.
And it was
Sitting.
laying, and for those who weren't there in person to see it, so this big giant case is completely empty and it's gray
Yeah.
at the bottom. And when I tell you this piece was just daintily just in the middle with
Yep.
nothing around it, um, I was like, "No way."
Yeah.
Right.
At first, I thought you were messing with me, like the end of the night kind of stuff. And, we were on our feet for a long time,
Yeah.
thinking, all right, we're just trying to have a little fun with each other. But you were all the way across the room.
Yeah.
I when you told me about this and showed me that, I was blown away. I was apt because of the experiences that we had. And when that happened, I was like, that was like,
Yeah.
'Cause it's brand new. It was
yes,
brand new,
Brand new.
straight brand new. All the pieces were there when you started, and one piece and the fact that that tripod stayed the way that it
yes,
did
Yeah.
the whole time also.
It makes no sense.
none, 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 none,
Yeah.
because you need that bolt to be able to have the laser
And
held.
I tried to recreate it and I couldn't.
And we couldn't.
Yeah.
So I just have to say, there are so many things that have happened during this, haunted Hurley tour, and using our paranormal equipment, and I'm was thrilled at the response of the community, and just the response of everything that went on in the house. And I truly look forward. We have a couple of more tours coming up, or I should say, opportunities for paranormal investigation. So, again, thank you, Matt, for
Absolutely.
all of your hard work, and the
Thanks, Matt.
equipment. Fantastic. And Aubrey, as always, appreciate your insight. And again, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for listening to Mediumship Moments, the special Haunted Hurley tour. Happy Halloween. And one last bit I want to bring up. For anybody, we're asking for sponsorships coming here at Mediumship Moments. Would love to get your business in front of a growing, engaged audience such as mine here at Mediumship Moments. I love supporting local and small businesses. So we'd love to feature you on Mediumship Moments, people that align with my community, and get your name out there in a fun, kind of soulful way, if you will. If you're interested in having sponsorship here on Mediumship Moments, whether that's pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll, you can contact me at media@kimdorm.com. Again, thanks so much for listening. And as always,
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time for another episode of Mediumship Moments. If you enjoyed this episode of Kim's podcast, check her out on Instagram and TikTok at Kim Durham Medium.